Dr. Vicki Peterson here. I wanted to share with you today the story of a family who came to see us, and I am going to use their names because they've given me permission to. And actually the mom, Heidi Kelly, is a little bit of a gluten celebrity in her own right. She has a wonderful blog called Adventures of a Gluten-Free Mom, so definitely check her out. A lot of good food ideas, very inspirational, and I think you'll enjoy it. So here's the story of her family, starting with Heidi. And you are going to see my eyes divert a little bit because there are 4 people to talk about, and I'm going to refer to some symptoms that I have written down. Heidi was diagnosed with celiac disease and dermatitis herpetiformis. So that is the skin condition associated with celiac. Very irritating, itchy, sores, miserable condition that has now been associated with celiac disease. Heidi also had thyroid disease. She had, I was trying to remember if it was eczema or psoriasis. It was psoriasis, and so she actually had 2 forms of thyroid disease. One was an autoimmune disease. Psoriasis is an autoimmune disease, and then of course she also had the dermatitis herpetiformis, which is the skin condition associated with celiac, which is also an autoimmune disease. She also suffered from ADD and depression, and the problem for her was that when she went gluten-free, she didn't feel any better. So it's hard enough maintaining a gluten-free diet anyway without noticing absolutely nothing when you do so. So for Heidi that was difficult, and she confesses for the first 3 years of her diagnosis she didn't maintain a complete gluten-free diet because she didn't feel better, didn't really notice any difference. However, as all good mothers do, as soon as her son was diagnosed, her eldest, then she started maintaining a gluten-free diet because he was diagnosed. Now, in his condition, he was considered a latent celiac because his blood panel was positive for celiac disease, but his intestinal biopsy was negative. So that's the terminology given, which is latent celiac, which means it's there in the blood, but you're not really seeing it in intestinal destruction. And oftentimes, especially in young people, they'll say, well, you know, you can eat gluten for a while because we're not really seeing any destruction. I disagree with that, and fortunately Heidi was smart and took her son off gluten about 2.5 years ago, but he too had continuing problems, and his problems were that he had a lot of constipation and focus issues, so kind of mental focus was problematic. She also has a younger son who was negative for celiac, so as so many people go through, when it's in the family, the rest of them are tested. He was negative, but he too had problems. He had diarrhea, he had eczema, and he also had behavioral issues. Her husband ended up being also not celiac, but he had, let's see what he had. He had some autoimmune diseases as well. He also had a lot of gastrointestinal problems, and he had ataxia, or an imbalance of gait, so he felt unsteady walking. These are young people. These are mom and dad are in their 30s, and the boys are about 4 and 7, I believe, about that age. So what's the story here? What am I trying to focus on? First of all, you have 4 people in a family with a lot of different symptoms. Mom has celiac, one son has latent celiac, the other son is not celiac, the dad is not celiac, but come to find out, actually they all have a problem with gluten. Both the other son and the dad were found to be gluten sensitive upon laboratory testing. But the problem was that a gluten-free diet was not making a difference, and that's my focus today, because one of the things that we're most committed to is dealing with the secondary effects of gluten. So that means you find out gluten's a problem and you eliminate it. Absolutely, that's step number 1. But then you have to go on. And these children are a perfect example, because even if you're young, getting off that gluten is usually not enough to completely remedy the problem. So with the boys, they had some secondary infections. We do stool testing, a specialized stool test to find this. They had some issues. We also not only were there bad guys in the intestine that shouldn't have been there, but the good guys, or the probiotics, were very limited. We balanced all that out. The kids are doing great. Similarly, Dad is also doing very well. And with Heidi, the mom, I also forgot to mention she had chronic sinus issues that were making her miserable as well. She truly, truly was miserable and was trying so hard while keeping this blog going. I don't know how she did it as badly as she was feeling. But fortunately, she came out. We are a destination clinic, so people do come to see us from around the country as well as internationally. Came out. We found some key issues for her. And one of the big ones was something called cross-reactivity. So what that means is that when you're eating certain foods that are not gluten but have a similar protein structure, when that food comes into your system, your body thinks it's gluten and therefore reacts as if it were gluten. That would be expected in someone with autoimmune disease. And the other thing I didn't mention is that despite her maintaining a gluten-free diet, her celiac panel, as far as blood tests were concerned, kept getting worse with each passing year, despite her doing everything she could to maintain a gluten-free diet. So, for the first time, she is seeing a change. She is seeing a marked change. She's got energy. She's sleeping well. She doesn't have her sinus symptoms. All these things are really clearing up for her, and it's exciting. Of course, you know, that's what we live for, these kind of changes, and we love seeing it. But the reason I wanted to bring this up is because here is the face of gluten sensitivity, all the way from celiac to gluten sensitivity itself, and all the various symptoms that can be associated with it, from neurological and behavioral to unsteady gait to digestive symptoms to autoimmune disease. Really, this family ran the gamut, but what the underlying cause was, in addition to, of course, being intolerant to gluten, were these secondary effects, and they all had their own area that needed to be addressed. But when it was, success was the result. So I wanted to impart that information to you because so many are out there suffering despite going gluten-free. And I just wanted to let you know there's absolutely reasons for that, and we know what to do. So please feel free to contact me, ask me questions. That's what I'm here for. So until next time, I wish you very good health.